This is the 11th dialogue between J. Krishnamurti and David Boehm at Brockwood Park, 1975.
What shall we talk about, sir?
Well, last time, at the end, I was suggesting the question of the three qualities. I could say, or whatever, we call them truth, intelligence, and truth, wisdom, and intelligence.
That's right.
And the relation possibly to experience.
That's right. We're going to talk about that. Did you ever hear of Kaiserling?
Is that an economist or
No.
no?
He was a philosopher.
A philosopher, a German, yes.
You must know. Yeah. Kaiserling.
Yes,
he started a school of wisdom.
Oh.
In Darmstadt or some place like that. And also in India there was a school of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. And
they asked me to go once to it. I said I wouldn't go because you can't teach wisdom. Their idea of wisdom was to study a lot of books.
Well, that's one idea, to accumulate the wisdom of the ages.
Yes, that's it. What does that word come from?
Well, I looked up that.
First of all,
wisdom has the same root as wit, and it has the same root as seeing, like video.
Has it to do anything to do with vidya, Sanskrit word?
Yes, vidya also means seeing in Sanskrit. You say it's.
Of course.
And wit is the same word.
Wit, oh yes.
Witness, probably. And wisdom. Some others I've forgotten by now.
First of all, how would you want to approach it? Can wisdom be learned?
Well, this is a difficult question. You see, it can't be learned in the usual sense. The question is there any way of imparting wisdom?
Yes.
In some sense. Conveying it. But one of the definitions that stuck in my mind was that it was a capacity for sound judgment.
Capacity for sound judgment.
That's one of the phases of it. As in this area where thought properly functions, then thought will be capable of sound judgments. Yes, well, looking at the dictionary, that's... let's see the word wise I've made a mistake. Yes, I was right. From a root based wid, or Aryan based wid, meaning to see or to know.
To know, that's right.
Right.
Arya wide.
The same root as vide in Latin and idea in Greek. And wisdom, it says the quality of being wise, that's not much help. Sound judgment, sagacity. Then the second meaning, archaic, is learning, knowledge, and science, the wisdom of the ancients. See, that's another meaning to the accumulated wisdom, but that is not what we mean.
Is it a confusion between knowledge and wisdom?
Well, there has been over the ages such a confusion, you see, but clearly from the root of the word it means not so much knowledge, but the act of seeing or knowing.
That's the act of seeing.
The act of seeing, and is the basic root, but it has also come to mean apparently the capacity to make sound judgments, which depends on perception.
Yes.
In other words, judgments are not made from thought
but from accumulated knowledge?
No, but from perception. You see that, in other words, I think a judgment is merely the expression in thought of a sound judgment is the expression in thought of a perception. Yes. In other words, see, a judgment means originally to divide. I say the word judge.
Judge, to divide.
To divide. And the German word Urteil is the original division. And you make a distinction or a discrimination and a sound judgment should make it according to a perception, not according to knowledge or tradition. Or
Yes.
you see, you would have to see the traditional judgments are to divide between good and evil, right and wrong, true and false, or just simply to divide in a technical way between cause and effect, or between relationship and non-relationship. You see, for example, we made the division saying that truth
and
reality are not related, which is a judgment.
I see.
The form of thought is a judgment, but if that were just based on knowledge, it would have no meaning.
No, quite.
But if that judgment or communicates a perception,
and also discerning.
Yes.
Discernment, to discern between essential, non-essential.
That's right. Yes.
Truth and false, and so on.
That's right. That's a perception, but in the form of.
Is perception dualistic?
No, but the way of expressing it is dualistic. You see.
That's all. That's it.
You see,
that's
it. See, this is a point which is hard to explain, but our language inevitably divides.
Language divides.
And
yes.
It must express something which is whole as a judgment, namely as something divided, but nevertheless one.
One, quite.
And this is the way our. I wanted to. There was a way I had in mind. Our thought has to give an account of the perception, our words, right? An intelligible account of perception.
Perception, quite.
And part of the intelligible account is is in the form of judgments. But as you were saying, the description is not the described. See, the account is not what is accounted for.
Okay. So what is then, if it is perception and not judgment, I just want to, it is not discernment. But wisdom is perception that, is wisdom the perception that discernment exists when there is duality? Would that be wisdom?
Well, when is there duality, you see? When is there duality?
When there is discernment.
Yes, but there is a certain area where discernment is called for. Is that what you mean to say, in the area where thought belongs?
Yes, in the area where thought belongs.
And
to see where thought belongs is wisdom.
Yes, that's the point. That's the key to wisdom, really.
Yes.
That is, if thought can see if thought knows if thought is aware of where it belongs, then it will make sound judgments.
Yes, it
correct
makes
discernments.
But that's not wisdom.
What?
If thought knows its place,
yeah.
I can put it, and functions within its own limit,
yes,
then that is the operation of thought.
Yes, but
that's not wisdom.
That's not wisdom, but
no.
that is, let's see, we have to make it clear that is taken as one of the signs of wisdom, you see.
I see, I'm glad we're discussing
Yes, you see, it's not to say that is the essence of wisdom, because that really is the outward form of an act of a man who is wise.
Quite.
Quite.
So, would you say that wisdom is the perception of the limitation of thought and its operation in the limited area?
Yes, that's the essence of wisdom.
That's the essence of wisdom.
To perceive the limitation of thought. And therefore, then the act of such a man will take the form of sound judgments, you see.
I see, yes, quite.
Right.
Quite. You see, I was... discernment, you must have heard of Shankara, Indian philosopher. I believe he lays a tremendous emphasis on this capacity to discern.
Yes, but then, the dictionary also says to make sound The question is, what is it that makes the judgment or discernment sound? You see, that's the...
It can be very logical, sane, clear thinking that can make a sound judgment.
Yes, but the person won't have... if his thought goes outside its proper area, he won't have that.
No, of course not. But very few realize the limitation of thought.
Yes, well, now that's the point, that if you merely put it in the outward form, it's misleading. You see, the sound judgment is merely the outward manifestation of wisdom.
Yes.
And if you emphasize that, then it's already wrong.
Yes, quite.
Because that is, then you are treating it as if it were the essence.
Essence, quite.
But the essence is the perception which allows one to see that thought is limited, and also the readiness of thought to move, to move with that perception.
Yes.
The way I put it is to give a correct account of its limits, and to move and to take that account into account. You see, in moving to, in other words, to see. It seems that this was something that I was observing. That let's say there is a perception, then thought may give an account of that perception, you see, which, but that is not the perception.
Perception, no.
But still, thought has to give the account.
Yes, yes.
Right? And,
yes.
and see, in some sense, you could compare thought to the witness, you see, the witness of what is observed. But the witness, if he gives a correct account of what he observes, that's good. But if he puts in his own thought as part of the account, it's wrong. You see, that's well known in court. And the difficulty is that this witness is continually putting in his own conclusions, his own ideas, and as if they were perceptions.
Distorting.
It's distorting because he's putting them in, not saying this is my conclusion, but saying this is what I see.
Yeah, quite.
And that is not wisdom, you see.
And what's the difference then between wisdom and intelligence?
Well, that's what we wanted to come to, you see. There are different words, and one wonders if there's not some different shade of meaning sometimes, you see. There are three words: wisdom, intelligence, and truth, you see.
Yes, wisdom, intelligence, and truth, yeah.
Now, we discussed intelligence once before, and at that time I think we were very nearly treating it as containing wisdom and truth. You see, we were using one word to cover the whole, I think.
Whole. Now we have separated it.
Yes.
Truth, wisdom, and intelligence.
Yes. Now, you see, the truth that you say is first, and from truth may flow wisdom, and from wisdom, intelligence. Is that...
So, would a man who perceives truth be foolish?
No, I mean, you see, foolishness is the opposite of wisdom, but you see, there would be no point. The truth would not lead a man into folly. I mean,
no. If one sees what is truth, he acts according to that.
Yes.
And that action, would it be a wise action?
Well, it would inevitably be a wise action.
Yes, and therefore not foolish,
yeah.
And therefore an intelligent action.
Yes, but we want to see why we use the two words wise and intelligent. You see, either there one of the words is superfluous, or there's a further shade of meaning that we have to explore, right? Now, we say there's a difference between truth and wisdom first. And see, truth is that which is, we said.
Yes.
Now, wisdom is somewhat more limited. It's the way we've seen it, it's the perception, primarily the perception of the limitations of thought, right?
Yes.
Right, so that thought does not do anything foolish. I mean, if thought does not know its limits, then
it does
all sorts of foolish things. Now, as soon as thought can know its limits, then it does not do anything foolish, you see. So, perception of that which is, it seems to me, goes far beyond the perception of the limits of thought.
Why have we then divided truth, wisdom, and intelligence?
Well, we don't know. It may be partly the tradition, of our culture, but there may be some reason behind it. That I think we have to look at it.
Quite.
Now, it seems to me that wisdom emphasizes this perception of the limits of thought. You see, the true perception of the limits of thought.
Yes.
And now what is intelligence, you see, then?
I mean, the meaning of that word, according to the dictionary, you need to read between.
Well, many meanings. It also means leggere means also to pay attention.
Pay attention, leggere.
Leggere, it could mean the same as read or pay attention,
yes.
and also means to gather and
yes, collect.
To collect, and also it means to choose, you see, so...
yes. See, that we come back to, yes.
What?
Yes, I see that. Where is choice intelligence? No, is the capacity to choose intelligence?
Well, no, you see, the point is that we have to say, what is the capacity to choose? I mean, unless somebody would say, if he chooses, it's either arbitrary or he must choose intelligently.
But choice.
Choice itself is, you see, in practical affairs, you may choose one thing over another with the help of intelligence, right?
Yeah.
But now, what kind of choice do you have in mind, you see?
Is there in perception choice?
Oh, that's the question, yes.
Yeah.
Or in awareness, right?
In awareness. In awareness,
or in attention.
Perception, in attention. Is there any choice?
Yes. No, you see, that's the same as saying there's no discrimination, you see. That's it. You could not choose unless there were discrimination to choose from, right?
Yes, choose from.
If there's no discrimination, there's no place for choice to operate.
That's right. That's right. There's no choice.
Yes. So
that's
yes.
right. Uh-huh.
So the question is, why is it that the word leisure had this range of meanings? Either.
I know.
You see, there seems to be some deep confusion somewhere, where people confuse between attention and choice, or say. In other words, the same word can mean attention, pay attention, and it can also mean choose. I don't know how that came about.
If there is attention, would there be choice?
No, there wouldn't be, you see, but people may think that there would be, you see. In other words, there may be in our tradition a widespread belief that attention would contain choice.
Attention, awareness, perception. In that, surely there is no choice at all. You just perceive.
Yes.
And act according to
but if somebody thought that we actually perceived discriminations, then he might think that you could choose, that awareness would contain choice. You see, I'm trying to say what mistaken presupposition would allow people to come to this belief that there is choice in awareness, you see, because I think...
Is it the outcome of the feeling or the idea that because there is choice, there is freedom?
That's part of it, perhaps, but the idea of, say, choosing between good and evil, let's say, that's one of the favorite choices, right?
Yes, good and evil. Take that.
And people felt you're free to choose between good and evil, but you wouldn't be able to do that unless you could discriminate good and evil, right? Therefore, it's probably assumed that you can discriminate good and evil.
No, but a man who perceives...
Yeah.
To him, there is no choice.
No, there's no choice, but he also doesn't discriminate in that perception.
No. And therefore, he acts according to that perception.
Yes, well, that perception contains the whole of, as I said, of good and evil, and the implication of the necessary action, all undivided.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And it is not necessary to say this side is evil, this side is good, I go to this side, you see.
Good guys and bad guys. Quite.
So that there's some confusion in our tradition about the nature of perception, you see.
For me, if I may be, perception implies a choiceless action.
Yes.
Not discriminating action or choosing action, just perception.
Yes, and as the description may make it look like a choice.
Description.
Yes. A person may see the whole of good and evil and take the right action, but when described, it's described that he took the good action and avoided the evil action. Do you see? But that's only a description.
But the description is not the described and so on, all the rest of it.
Yeah, so the point is that in the description we inevitably use the dualistic language, and it looks that way, and in order to communicate something that is not dualistic. You see, there's...
So, let's begin. To see is to act.
Yeah.
And in that action there is no choice.
Yes.
And to see, that perception is truth.
The perception that there is no choice.
Yeah, there is no choice. That is the truth.
Yes.
Now, in translating that into words,
Yes.
does it imply any dualistic?
No, it doesn't. It merely that the words are dualistic in form, but the actuality is not dualistic. You see, the mere statement that perception, that is truth, is a kind of, there is dualism in the way you use the words, because you see, it would imply that that is not wrong, that is not false, you see, and so on. See, I'm trying to say that there is a certain background in language,
Of course.
which
of course,
has dualism built into it.
Built to it, yes.
And
Quite
nevertheless, it is possible to communicate. Knowing that is the case, it is possible to communicate free of dualism. That's what I want to suggest.
Quite. Can I communicate, or can one communicate love without the implication of hate, jealousy, anger?
Yes, as long as we realize that the words, are only the description. You see that's that it's part of the language that love is not hate and so on. You see, but one can see that perhaps one could say that one has nothing to do with the other. Is that?
Is wisdom the denial? Is the negation of the opposite?
No.
Yes, Mr.
What is the opposite of wisdom? It's folly, you see.
Folly.
No, it can't be. You see, in one sense, it's not the opposite of folly. You see.
Oh no.
No, you see, but wisdom obviously is the denial of folly. But denial does not mean opposition.
Opposition, quite.
That's a matter of being careful, because to deny means that the other is not there at all.
Quite.
Not that it opposes it.
Is intelligence different from perception?
Well, it can't be really different from perception.
No. So why has man divided perception, truth, wisdom, intelligence, and good and evil and all the rest of? Why has this division? How has this division come about?
Well, are we really clear that there's no use to this word, to this division at all? You see, wouldn't intelligence might be a different shade of meaning?
Would a man
Yes.
who perceives truth
Yeah.
have this division in himself?
There would be no point to it.
No point to it. So who has divided this?
Well, it's clear that thought has divided it. You see, in thought it appears as divided. We have different words and some sense that they mean something different.
Or thought has divided it, or we have been educated to divide this.
Yes, well, through thought, you see.
Yes.
Our thought has been conditioned to divide it. Our way of thinking, to fragment it, you see.
Yes.
So to use different words and to give them different meanings and so on. And even to give intelligence the meaning of some sort of skill in thought, you see, that...
skill in thought, yes, quite.
And when people talk about artificial intelligence. And see, they talk about computers that would be artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
But I was talking with a man who worked in computers, and he finally saw that it would be artificial thought, not artificial intelligence.
Right. Then what are we trying to do? We are trying to find out what is the relationship between wisdom and truth, between intelligence and wisdom, and all.
Yes. Now, see if we could explore, is there any part of the meaning of intelligence that we have, not looked at yet? You see, or do we say it's all contained in truth?
That I'm just beginning to question that.
What?
Whether in the word truth, whether all those are not included. So as we said the other day, we said there is reality and truth.
Mm-hmm.
Reality is all that which thought has operated, all that which thought has created, all that which chooses, which discriminates, and functions within that field. We said that is all reality.
Yes, well, I would try to put it, it's not merely what thought has done, but there's a certain actuality which thought has thought about, or which thought can describe. You see, even the tree may be described as part of reality where thought discriminates.
Yes.
And the tree exists independently of thought, but still thought
is different.
Thought knows the tree in that form, right?
Yes. Thought knows the tree in that form, but the tree is separate or is not thought.
The tree is not thought, it's an actuality. But still, I say reality is therefore not only what man has produced and what he knows, but all the unknown reality which he could know.
Yes.
Like what's going on Mars or...
Yes, sure.
You see, which still would be known through thought. Whatever could be known through thought is reality, you see.
Yes, everything that can be known through thought is reality. That we went through all this.
Yes, that's just to cover everything.
Yes, that's right.
And therefore, the truth would have to be...
Can a thoughtful man be a wise man?
Well, what do you mean by thoughtful?
Thoughtful in the sense who sees the world is degenerating, who sees the various forms of revolution are taking place, and through thought says, I must find an answer, and relies on thought to find that answer.
No, you see, aside from all the criticism you could make about lack of perception, you see that the major point is that thought is then moving outside its proper area. You see, if he is going to find an answer without...
No, but he says, I only know thought.
Yes, I know.
And I know nothing else. And since thought has created this awful confusion, thought will find an answer.
Yes, well, that's outside. See, that's one of the points of wisdom, is for thought to understand that it cannot possibly
find an
answer to that which it itself produces. Do you see? That is, when thought produces contradiction, it cannot find an answer.
So a thoughtful man is not a wise man.
Well, if he depends on thought, he's not wise.
Of course. You see, a thoughtful man is not a wise man, nor is he an intelligent man.
No.
We are condemning the thoughtful man.
Well, if that's what you mean by a thoughtful man, but very often thoughtful means just wise or intelligent. So the words can be used differently.
I know, but a thoughtful man is not a wise man.
Well, not the way we've defined it.
Would you take a thoughtful man, even though we didn't define it, as a wise man?
Not if he depends on thought, you see. But sometimes by the word thoughtful, you mean something different. You see, that the person is not thoughtful, meaning that he was not wise, usually. You see, that his was not observing his thoughts.
Yes.
You see, there's a great deal of ambiguity in the language, and the words are used in different senses, but I would say that if a man depends entirely on thought, then he cannot be wise, you see.
Let's limit it to that, yes. Man who depends entirely on thought is not a rational, logical, and dependent on thought, is not a wise man. Then what is wisdom, which is not the movement of thought? Has it got a place, a seat? Is it a living thing, or is it an accumulated experience?
Well, yes, I mean, it's clear that it's a living thing, but you see, I think we should discuss then, since you brought in the word experience,
yes,
we must discuss it. You see, because that is another one of these very ambiguous words. Now, I've thought, the word experience has many meanings, but one of the meanings is to put to the test, and like the same root as peril, and another meaning is to go through, as in per. But I think it seems to me there are there are two aspects of experience. You see, if you're working in some practical domain, you need experience to learn, you see. All right, and that, now, so we're saying that experience is thought, basically. Now, see, there was one interesting definition of experience which was given by some philosopher, Immanuel Kant, who said it's a combination of sensation and thought, which seemed good to me. You see that the
combination of sensation and thought,
and these thoughts are the basic categories, the basic discriminations. In other words, you don't only have sensation, but there's an immediate thought too fast for to be seen,
yes,
in which there's a discrimination or a category, like cause and effect, or any good and bad, and so on, pleasant and unpleasant. And therefore, you could say that is experience. In some sense, experience, I say, is the contact with reality. I don't know if that makes sense to you. You see, that experience, proper experience in practical affairs, is what you mean by something being real.
Can you experience truth?
No, but you can experience reality.
Oh, yeah, quite.
That's what I wanted to say.
Right.
That reality is what can be experienced.
Yes.
And the sense of reality is important in the experience. You see, the
yes,
fact that you have a sensation or a contact,
yes,
is sort of a feeling that it is real, I am real.
Quite.
And the whole thing is real, you see. Now, on the other hand, you see, if you try to experience truth or love or beauty or something, then it has no meaning, you see, there's no place. So experience goes wrong when thought tries to go out of its place.
Out of its limits.
Out of its limits. You see, the same as, I would say, the way it seems to me also, it's interesting, you could say you experience pain or pleasure or experience desire.
Yes.
You see, and in those experiencing desire, it seems to me, would be a case of thought going out of its limits.
Yes, quite. Now, to see the whole of that, the operation of thought, the limitation of thought, the thought sensation, and thought accumulating knowledge about the future, and so on, all that, and seeing the interrelationship between intelligence, wisdom, and truth. Seeing the whole of that, would you call that wisdom?
Well, you could call it wisdom, you could call it truth, you see, but
yes,
to me the notion of intelligence also gets across something more detailed in the sense of meeting the individual situation. In other words, that we could say truth meeting the actual individual situation is intelligence. I don't know if that makes sense. In other words,
I see what you mean.
Truth is the universal or the global. That's of course it's all one, but I mean we divide it in our description. Our language is dualistic.
Right.
But truth is the universal or the global, but when it meets the individual actual situation, we call that intelligence. Do you see? That's the way it occurred to me.
Yes.
In other words, intelligence is what keeps everything in order.
Order, quite. Intelligence is, yes, quite.
Now, it's not really different from truth, but it's calling attention to a different action or a different way of looking at it. I don't know, a different way of, not exactly of looking, but...
Seeing the whole
Yes.
Is wisdom, is truth.
Seeing the whole is truth. And I think that the actions of a man who sees the whole are wise. That's what I would like to put it.
Yes.
And then the very root says, they're wise, meaning they are based on seeing. Actually, since wise means seeing.
Wise means seeing.
It says so in the dictionary,
yes.
The original
seeing.
Meaning. Yeah, based on the same root as vide.
Yes, vide.
And intelligence is also seeing, you see, and I think it's merely giving names to different action, to the action of truth, emphasizing the dealing with the intelligence. It seems to me it would involve the ability to deal with every actual case from the seeing.
Yeah, from the seeing.
Yes, and not from memory or from knowledge.
No, that's right.
I see. You see, people might think that wisdom consisted in accumulating a great deal of knowledge. You see, this tradition, they get so much knowledge that they would know how to deal with every individual case, and they would think that's wisdom. You see, but that's wrong.
The other day, Lord Clark, Civilization Clark, was talking about Egypt, and he was showing some pictures of Saqqara and Luxor and the Valley of the Kings. And he said there civilization began.
Yes. Well, yes, well, as far as we know.
As far as we know, it might be much older.
Yes.
Is civilization the product of thought?
Well, it seems to me it is.
And then culture is also part of thought.
Yes, it's the root is to cultivate, to make something grow.
So our civilization then is based on thought.
Yes, that seems obvious.
It is obvious.
Also Bernovsky was making that very clear in his series. In saying the ascent of man was the ascent of his knowledge.
So, knowledge is in the field of reality.
Yes.
Now you see we're getting at it. Knowledge is in the field of reality, and we are operating on knowledge.
Yes, and then we use experience, to gain knowledge and to apply our knowledge and so on.
All that. Then has knowledge any relationship to truth?
No, you see, at first sight it might have, but it doesn't actually.
Actually not.
You see, I was looking at it. Thought has no relation. See, it's a very hard thing to put. See, this comes to a question which we were considering some time ago. Where did thought first go wrong? Now, see, one idea was, let's say thought suddenly expanded in man as his brain enlarged. And thought, we were suggesting, did not know its limitations. You see, when thought first appeared in man, it did not know that it was limited, you see, and it tried to behave as the unlimited, you see. Now, before it could find out that it was limited, it already created so much chaos that it couldn't do anything. You see, so now it's very hard for thought to discover it's limited, not only, for all this chaos, but also there's an inherent difficulty in the language, in thought to express its limitation, because there's a paradox, you see. See, if you try to say thought is limited, you see, every thought first of all establishes limits, do you see? Thought is that which makes limits, right? All the limits come from thought, right? The very word determine has to terminate, to limit, you see. And now, So if we say all the limits are set by thought, and now we want to say thought itself is limited.
Yes, we do.
And then that becomes difficult to say, not paradoxically, you see, because you see, if you say thought not only makes limits, but it transcends every limit that it makes. You see.
Yes.
Therefore, if thought says thought is limited, it immediately transcends that limit.
It draws a line and goes beyond the line.
That's right, yes. It's the character of thought to set a limit and to transcend the limit. Now, if thought says, I am limited, then immediately it transcends the limit.
Yes,
therefore, it has not done the right thing, you see. Therefore, there's another way to put it, that the whole process of setting limits and transcending them, which is thought.
Which is thought.
Not to say, is it limited, because that will get us into that trouble, but rather to say, does it have any bearing whatsoever on truth?
Obviously.
No, not to say it's limited or unlimited or anything, but merely that it has nothing whatsoever to do with it.
That's right. Thought has no relationship to truth.
Yes, or has no relevance to truth, no bearing to truth or anything, you see. And therefore, it cannot even state that truth is unlimited or anything like that, you see.
No, true. Right.
And therefore, what thought has to do, you see, when thought sees that, then it's obvious that the right action of thought is to not attempt any of those questions where it has no bearing, you see.
Yes. You see, I was looking at those on the television, the picture of Sakar, where he showed extraordinary buildings, ancient buildings, 3,000, 5,000, I don't know how old they are. It was put together by thought.
Yes.
The thought became an instrument of perception.
Why do you say an instrument of perception?
I'm not. The architect who, Imhotep, or what do you call him, he had an image, or the imagination to see what the building should
be. Now
do.
that brings us back to last week. We were discussing imagination.
Yes.
And you said you don't imagine anything.
Yeah, I don't personally.
Yes, and now let's see if we could just, as long as we're on this, perhaps, you could say, let's take an architect, and he has plans, and he has to visualize what this looks like. And what would you say about that? I mean, if you suppose you wanted to make a building from a drawing, wouldn't you have to visualize?
Yes.
So
but I can't do it. I can only do it if if an architect draws a plan, and then I can say this is not right. But I can't.
You can't what?
Draw it rightly. I can only correct what is.
Why is that?
I have no visual capacity to see something solid. In the
imagination.
Imagination.
Now,
I can't imagine a building.
No, but is this just a peculiarity of yourself, or is it
maybe a peculiarity?
Or does it reflect? Does it mean something more in the sense that there's something wrong with imagination, or?
I don't think imagination plays a part in meditation, in truth.
I understand that.
Perception.
I mean, I agree with all that. That's clear. You see, I say imagination may have certain limited parts to play, let's say, in visualizing or certain arrangements like a building.
Yes, of course.
And also...
painting.
Yeah, another use... See, one thing that occurred to me was that, see, imagination always contains what I call the imaginary. You see, the person who seems to be looking, but he is quite imaginary.
Yes.
In other words, there's nobody looking. You see, just like in a dream, the dreamer is not there. So the imaginer who's looking at the picture is not there. You see that. See, the imaginer is imagined.
But talking of dreams, hasn't it happened to you when you are dreaming? There's interpretation of the dream going on.
Yes, well, that would be another kind of dream where you see that in one kind of dream, it seems you are the person. You are identified with the dreamer, with the one who is dreaming. You see, some character in the dream.
No, we won't go into dreams.
Yeah,
quite.
But there might be another kind of dream in which you're not identified. You see, no.
Yes.
But couldn't there be a kind of imagination where you were not identified? You see, I think you use it, like when you said, you compared, you say, to Columbus discovering America, there's an image in there.
Yes.
And now there was no image maker, but the image was merely an expression of a visual expression of a certain perception, do you see? So somebody might call that a kind of imagination.
No, that's a statement.
It's a statement, but there's an image in there. You see, the image of Columbus on his boat going to America.
I didn't imagine that.
Yes, but all right, but that's what, to some extent, it communicates like that.
No, I just said that's a fact. If apparently Columbus did discover America, if previously it had not been discovered by Vikings and so on, but apparently
yes,
Columbus discovered. That's a fact.
Yes, it's a fact.
I just stated a fact.
Oh yeah, you see, I think it's a matter of language. You see, there is the kind of imagination which is fancy. You see, a fantasy.
Fancy, yes,
yes. The same thing. And in this, it appears that the thing being imagined is being looked at by somebody, and in a way, it's taken as if he actually were looking at something.
Looking quite that answer.
And that's delusion. You see, that's all right. Now, but a person can have an image which he knows is an image. You see, which you see what these metaphors. You see, Columbus discovering America is a metaphor.
Yes.
And there are many other metaphors which take the form of images. You know, I can't remember them now, but I think you've used others. And that use of imagery is like the use of language. Do you see it? Do you see what I'm driving at?
Simple. That's understandable.
All right. So
wait a minute.
Yes.
So, in the field of reality, there is imagination.
Yes.
There is the artist, the musician.
That's right. He may use images in a sort of constructive way rather than a pure fantasy.
Yes,
right?
Yes, and so on. Now, can a musician or an artist see truth?
No, you see, once again, not as a musician anyway. You see, he might as a human being see truth, but I mean, in other words, like any human being. But I'm saying there's no reason why being a musician or an artist should make a person more perceptive of truth than anything else.
That's it.
Although, of course, among musicians and artists, there may be a belief that, to the contrary, I mean...
Yes, quite.
In fact, I think there is, but...
Yeah, that there are superior entities and so on, quite. More sensitive, and therefore perhaps capable of seeing truth. Yes,
because in some way, you see, I've even read, say, some people regard art as the sacred or art as the expressing something deep and so on. Now, you see, the general, this is a point we raised before about the culture, that, see, the word culture has a tremendous range of meanings too, because the anthropologists use it to mean everything.
Everything, yes. Quite, quite.
And now other people use it to mean just music and art and literature and some other things, you see. Now, but
we are using it in a very we are using it only in the field of reality.
Yes, well, it's everybody, even the anthropologist, uses it only in the field of reality. You see, right. That is now. The question is, can the culture bring about a perception of truth? Do you see, or there is a widespread belief that it could, or.
I know.
That the culture could put the mind in order, as it were, and that by means of a good culture, the mind is brought to a certain order, which would be helpful.
Which means through time, order.
Yes, that's really it. I think it's a very widespread belief, you see.
Yes, of course. Through evolution, order.
Yes, or through cultivation, order, and so on.
Yes. Through time, bring about order.
Yes, even, say, the Egyptians who thought, more timelessly, nevertheless, they believed that through cultivation, they would, of the mind, they would bring a certain order. I mean, it's obvious that they did try it. And so that, I think, is a case of where thought is going beyond its proper limits. You see, when thought tries to put the brain in order, as it were, to put the mind in order. And thought is trying to do what it could never do.
No. You see, but the whole of the political field and the economic business is to bring about order in the field of reality.
Yes.
And they can never do it.
No. So it would be important to point out why not, though, you see.
Oh, that's simple. Why not is simple. Because they are
it's too limited, you see.
Limited.
It
It's not global.
It doesn't go into the deep sources of human action.
Yes, quite. So we are eliminating altogether the artist, the musician, the archaeologist, the politician,
Well, none of these can bring order. Science also cannot bring order in the field of reality because, whatever knowledge it gains, it depends on the human being, what's done with it.
So only those who perceive truth can bring about order.
Yes.
Quite right.
But you see, it might be worth saying a few things that it may seem at first sight that one is dismissing the whole, everything, you see. Now, in other words, the whole of culture, but at the same time, why would you have a school here to teach people
things?
That's
a different thing.
No, but I mean, it's important to make it clear, you see. Because sometimes the language can lead you into something that doesn't communicate properly, you see.
Right. This morning there was an article quoted from Los Angeles Times in the Tribune about the revolutionaries in America. Did you look at it?
You mentioned it to me.
I mentioned it. All of them are saying the present structure of society is destructive.
Yes.
Is not giving man opportunity to be free, to be happy, and so on, so on, so on. And all these revolutionaries want to upset what they call capitalism and bring about a world state or a state in America where big corporations are not in power.
Yes.
All that is in the field of thought.
Yes.
And they have tremendous appeal.
Is that what the article said? Yeah.
No, I'm saying they have tremendous appeal. Because what is taking place in India, putting the cap on everything, and dominating, they think that will bring order. The revolutionaries want to bring order. The communists want to bring order. So everybody is trying to bring order in the field of reality.
Yes.
And we are saying that's impossible.
Yes, and that might discourage a lot of
people. I know,
it's a fact.
I mean, that's a fact.
It's a fact, yes.
Would the revolutionary accept this as a fact?
Well, not as he is now. I mean, not now. I mean, that is, the revolutionary doesn't see this fact.
Yes. But then what relationship is the one who perceives truth to the revolutionary who says we must change the world?
Yes, well, it's again the same point about the truth has no direct relation to this reality, you see. The only possibility would be to find a way to communicate.
Yes. Therefore, the man who is a revolutionary, he says, you have no place, you are irrelevant.
Yes, the revolutionary says you are irrelevant unless you can somehow communicate with him.
But you can't communicate with him because he's closed himself entirely in the field of reality.
Yes, you can't really do much with him.
No. Any more than you can do anything with Brezhnev. I mean, he wouldn't even tolerate you. So, what place has the man who perceives truth in this world of reality?
Well, it's clear he has no place, actually, that not directly. Not as, his perception of truth has no place in this world of reality.
I'm not sure.
Well, let's see what place he would have. other than communicating to break through this field of reality.
If the man in the world of reality is a real revolutionary,
yes.
Not blood, I don't mean blood and thunder revolutionary, but the feeling that society is corrupt, society, etc., and he's got a strong feeling that it must be changed. Could the man who has perceived truth talk to him?
Yes, well, that's what I meant, that all he can do is to communicate truth. See, if this man, you're saying the revolutionary is not really completely engulfed in the field of reality, but, he is still able to listen.
Yes.
Because he sincerely wants a better society. And therefore, if the other man can put the thing rightly, in the right way.
But, you see, can this man who is real deep revolutionary ever see truth? Or must he realize the limitation of thought and so on?
Yeah, so that's what has to be communicated. You see, I'm saying that if this man is still able to listen to something, then he may be able to listen to the fact of the limitation of thought. If it's really put in a way that gets to him.
Yes, I understand.
Although he may start to resist it very quickly, but that means the other fellow has to be very fast and,
yes.
and very succinct and so on.
So things are becoming clear. That is, we are saying in the world of reality there is choice, there is everything is in the field of reality. And a man who perceives truth can only operate or function upon reality.
Well, we said he can't actually.
In the sense, he can communicate.
Yes, so that's not, he doesn't communicate to reality.
No. He cannot communicate truth.
No.
But he can communicate to this man who is in the field of reality, say, look, see the limits of that.
Yes, he can communicate, first of all, showing the inconsistencies and,
yes.
And showing the limits and so on. Yes, there's within the field of reality if the man is not totally engulfed, there's a certain area where he can accept it.
But why is it that all the leaders of the world are dominating this world of reality?
Well, because nobody has any idea in that world of what to do. You see, I think we've just made it clear nothing can be done, and probably deep down there's a sense nothing can be done. That you leave it to somebody to do it, right? I mean, we don't know what to do. If we knew what to do, we might try to do it, but the other fellow seems to know what he's doing. Perhaps we'd better let him get on with it. That's the sort of thinking that might go on.
One of the revolutionaries says, order your own life.
Yes, but we're back in the same story. I mean, what is going to order it, you see? You see, in my view, that it would be possible. You see, that it's important to communicate in different ways to see if this thing will come across. You see, now, and my own feeling is that the communication itself has to be very orderly.
Yes.
Both in verbally and non-verbally. You see.
Non-verbally, quite.
But the order of the communication itself is part of the communication.
Part of, if there is perception of the truth will bring order in words.
Yes, that's it. Yes, now that brings us to a point that we were discussing before. You see that it will bring order in words and in also the non-verbal action.
Non-verbal action.
And that order will itself be seen by the man as not only what you say, the content of what you say, but the whole order of it.
Yes.
It will be seen, and that seeing will already be a bit beyond reality. I mean, quite. Now, see, we were saying, we were discussing words a few times ago, and one question arose is that it's not clear how words are formed. I remember we discussed this. You can't see yourself making the words,
No.
and you suddenly find yourself saying them without any visible no account of. You can't account for how it comes about. You see, and one of the questions that occurred to me is, I could see there might be two ways of forming words. One way would be from memory, you see, from the habit. All stored up phrases would be just come out
Quite.
from the record and recombined in various ways.
Is English language very confusing?
Well, not when you get to know it, I suppose.
Like the word see,
Yeah.
seeing with the eye, seeing with the mind, seeing with the intellect, seeing with feeling. You follow? Seeing.
Yes.
And when you use the word see, all these are implied.
Yeah, well, I think in most languages that sort of thing happens.
Is it so in Sanskrit? Because
I don't know Sanskrit.
I don't know either.
But I mean, most of the languages like French or Italian or so on probably do much the same. No?
But I believe in Sanskrit there are different words for it.
Yes. Well, Sanskrit was, as you know, a language constructed specifically
made
for philosophical and
perfect,
religious
the word
purpose.
Sanskrit means that which has been made perfect.
But it's so that our common language, and I think the word Prakrit just meant the common language, and
Prakriti.
Prakriti, which is the same as our language here, it has all this confusion.
Yes.
And we've had trouble with this confusion now, trying to see what intelligence means and wisdom and and truth and so on. But I don't think the language is the main problem. I mean, in other words, this confused language is probably the product of a confused mind.
Yes, quite right. Language is not the main problem.
But I'm interested, you see, in how language forms. Now, you see, the other idea of language, words forming is, like you once discussed, the drum vibrating to the emptiness. The words could form, as it were, directly from truth. Is that?
Yes.
So that you are not thinking the words. And in that case, you're saying something we said before, that truth can act directly on the physical structure of the brain in some way.
Yes, that's right.
That's the thing which seems very interesting. You see, now, one thing that occurred to me is if you say that, then you must say that at bottom, in its depths, matter is not mechanical, you see. It may be mechanical in a certain way, but
man is not mechanical.
Matter is not mechanical.
Matter.
Because truth could not act on that matter if it were just mechanical.
Mechanical, quite.
So you would have to say the mechanical aspects of matter are a certain area of matter, which thought can handle, and thought itself is material.
There is an old, I think part of the old Indian tradition, Tibetan, the Eastern tradition, that matter is living.
Yes, well, that's sort of what's implied in what you say, isn't it?
Yes.
Because, see, if truth can actually operate in matter, then matter must be intelligent in some way, living, or at least it's intelligible. And
that's what I was saying. If he who perceives truth can operate on the consciousness or on the mind or the brain of the man who is caught in the world of reality.
Yes, that's a very interesting point. You see, I think we have to see this very clearly. So, see, first of all, the truth operates in his own brain.
Yes, of course.
Clearing away the confusion.
Yes.
Sometimes it occurred to me the analogy of a fog, which could be cleared away either by the sun or by the wind or a storm. Do you see? In other words, rather than trying to arrange everything within the fog,
no,
it's all cleared away. You see, so all the questions arising in the fog are irrelevant. Now,
would you say, sir, from that arises just briefly?
Yeah.
Suffering, when you remain totally with suffering, that's a storm.
Yes, that's the storm that clears the fog.
Clears the fog. That's it.
And it's a real material storm, then it would be. Now, a real actual or something, but genuine. I mean, but I think that we should look a little bit at this notion that matter is fundamentally not mechanical. You see,
not mechanical. Quite.
But it has a mechanical area.
Yes.
Which is also the area that thought can handle. So we could say that that is the right area for thought, which is the mechanical area of matter, and thought itself is part of the mechanical area of matter.
That's right.
Which helps to, which can bring order within that other mechanical area, but it cannot bring order into itself. You see.
And thought is trying to go beyond it.
Yes, it tries to transcend its limit, and you see
Yes.
now because thought. See, when thought first forms, its very form is to set a limit and transcend it. And thought does not know that. That there are some areas it can't go into, and therefore thought tries to transcend those limits too. You see that's now either it tries to understand the truth or spirit or love or something, or it tries to take hold of the brain matter and keep it in order.
Keep it quiet.
But it can't reach those depths.
So we are saying mind is not mechanical.
Yes, and also matter is
not mechanical.
Although it has a mechanical part or side or
that's
something.
Right. Therefore, truth can touch the non-mechanical part in man,
yes,
in matter.
In matter, and say truth operating in one brain clears that brain.
I get it, that's right.
And then being communicated, it may clear another brain.
Another brain, quite.
Now when that brain is clear, it can operate in order.
Quite.
But see, then you would say the brain, being material, is both mechanical and non-mechanical.
That's right.
Now, the mechanical side will operate in order only if only with the truth that keeps it clear. Is that it? You see,
That's right.
In other words, something non-mechanical is needed to keep the mechanical clear.
Yes.
Otherwise, you accumulate pollution or some fog or mist, smog from the past.
Are you saying that in man or in matter there is intelligence?
I'm saying it's implied. You see, I'm trying to say that if we proceed from where we started, you see, saying that the truth actually operates in the brain. You see, now if it does, then it follows that there must be a kind of something like intelligence in matter. You see, namely at least something non-mechanical. You see, which is which.
Then we have to be awfully careful, because that brings in that God is in you.
Well, no, we don't say that.
That's what I want to avoid.
Yes, we've got to be careful, because thought is thereby transcending its proper limits.
Yes, quite.
You see,
we catch him that way. Quite.
You see, we're not saying God is anywhere, but merely the question is whether matter is mechanical or not, and all we could say is that matter can respond to intelligence, as it were.
Yes.
Whether it is intelligent or not, we don't know, but one view of it is it might be, in the sense that, some sense anyway. But I think if we stick to where we are, you see, and what implications are in that, then we could say we've got to the point of saying matter is not mechanical. It is capable of responding to intelligence, and whether it has intelligence or not, we don't know. But it has a property that I call intelligibility, which may be that it's in some relation to intelligence, also the possibility of being acted on by intelligence. And
why has religion been associated with truth?
Well, in a way it's natural. If you think of the deeper meaning of religion, you see...
of the word religion.
Yes. I mean, apparently the best meaning that this dictionary gives is religere, meaning to gather together, or to pay attention to the whole, or something like that.
That's right. Diligent and negligent.
Negligent, you see. So, if religion was originally the gathering together of the whole, then truth is that too, you see. That.
Yes, that's what I want to make clear. That's right.
But then when religion became, corrupted by being defined as reality, then it went wrong. But so you could say, that if one reads the Bible, the Old Testament, they say the Hebrews were continually in danger of falling into idolatry, of making God real, you see. Of making images which turned God into truth into reality.
Like last night, there was a priest, a Roman Catholic priest, who was talking about devil. He says, I actually believe that there is devil.
Yes, well, if he believes
And
there's a God, he
who
must...
now having a marvelous time.
Yes, well, it's only natural. If he believes that God is real, he must believe that the devil is real. But
So we are saying something which is terribly revolutionary. I don't. Huh?
Well, what you say, in what sense?
Revolution in the sense we are denying evolution. Evolution that is in the field of thought, in the field of reality.
Yes, well, we're denying that evolution has to do with that which is. It may happen in the field of reality.
Yes.
I think we could put it carefully that in the field of reality you may observe evolution taking place. You see one animal becoming another and so on. But we're not saying that is only the field of reality, is not even the depths of matter, much less the depths of mind.
Yes. We are now saying whatever is in the field of reality, conclusions and thought moving out of its own limit, transcending it and creating another reality, is still within the field of reality.
Yes.
All that we say is unrelated to truth.
Yes.
And truth is something which can only be perceived as a whole, when the mind acts as a whole.
Yes.
That's right. Yes.
But in addition, you're saying that truth actually acts to bring about this wholeness by dissolving the mist of reality in the brain. You see, the confusion,
that's right.
Whatever we want to call it.
You know, we were talking about the other day about emptiness at lunch, having great energy.
Yes.
You were saying space.
Yes. I said space has, this was a calculation I once made, that according to modern physics, empty space is full of a tremendous energy which is inaccessible. People don't take it very seriously, but if you actually do the calculation, it's an essentially unlimited energy in each part of space.
You see, the other night, I'm not being personal, the other night, I have a peculiar kind of meditation. I wake up meditating.
Yes,
The other night, I woke up with this feeling of tremendous energy in emptiness.
Yes.
I was, please, when I use the word, I don't mean that. This whole brain was completely empty.
Yes.
And therefore, there was an extraordinary quality of energy.
Yes.
And when you said at lunchtime that, according to scientists, according to you, in space there is great energy.
Yes, unlimited.
Unlimited energy. I felt the same thing, you see. So, is emptiness, which means nothingness, mustn't there be emptiness for the perception of truth?
Yes, but the point about the energy, that the perception of truth is the action of this energy. Is that?
Yes, that's it.
You see, the way, you may find this interesting, the way modern physics treats the atoms and the particles of matter is to say they are created out of empty space, and they dissolve into empty space. And to say that a particle is a sort of a manifestation of that energy of the whole, right? So that it's a small change, a form, as it were, within that energy. Do you see, which is transient? Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
And now, perhaps you could say thought is a similar form. I don't know. You see, or matter as we know it. The mechanical side of matter, but then there's the energy itself. You see, physics disregards that energy itself. It pays mostly attention to matter, you
Matter,
see.
yes, quite.
And it tries to ignore the rest of the energy. And that's what thought does, you see. It only pays
But from this arises the question, how is a man to empty his mind?
Yes, well,
How is a human being who sees the world of reality and knows its limitation, how can that man perceive this immense thing? They have tried in the religious field, as little as I know about it, they have tried every method to get to this.
yes. Well, I mean, one can see the problem of methods, that every method is part of the content of consciousness of thought.
Thought, quite.
Therefore, and using the method means you're not doing it.
No, but that has become what? Not only the fashion, that seems to have been right from the beginning, do something to get that.
Yes, well, that's. It seems to me that again is thought not seeing it's trying
Yes.
to transcend its limit. You see, that is, in other words, that is something which is not proper. Not which thought cannot deal with. You see,
I mean, how can one not help in this, show or communicate or awaken this extraordinary emptiness and energy, which is truth and so all the rest?
Yes, well,
If you, as a professor, doctor, scientist, physicist, who has gone into the question of time, space, matter, energy, and if you perceived that truth, how would you communicate to me, both verbally and non-verbally? Not communicate, because I would say, I'm fairly intelligent. Say communication, verbal communication, I can never get it through verbal communication, because the description is not the described and all the rest of it. It is my serious concern and interest to understand that emptiness. How would you would describe all the limitations of thought and so on, so on, so on, so on. How would you help me to come to that extraordinary emptiness? See, this has been the problem, one of the problems of a man who sees it
yes.
and then wants to tell somebody about
Yes.
it.
Yes, well, somehow, yes, I see the problem. It's
And then in telling him, it gets destroyed.
it gets destroyed because thought takes hold of it. And
takes over, and the priests get into it.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing is gone.
Well, see, the point is to communicate that to thought, so that thought does not attempt to move outside its field. You see that is.
But I only know thought.
Yes, I know that, but you see, it's not entirely so. We just said that we considered this revolutionary, and we said it may be that he only knows thought, but there's still something in him which.
Unless he's really a profound revolutionary.
Yes, I'm trying to say that you would have to. We're considering the profound revolutionary who might still have something in him.
Yeah, then, there are very few profound revolutionaries.
Well,
they're all revolutionaries in the sense of changing the environment. And therefore, you see, they say guru is necessary. You follow?
Yes, but I mean, then still it's no use. I mean, it's
Of course not. He will show me or help me to realize that, which is impossible. So everything has been so made corrupt, so impossible. So we have now, I mean, if you had that emptiness and you want to show it to me, what do you do with me?
See, I think maybe we're going a little too fast in this sense that there's a great deal of, things we haven't gone into yet that may be getting in the way. And
I jumped in.
You see, the point is there's a tremendous movement of thought, of self-deception, and so on. And you see, the mind does not see the whole, the thought does not handle the whole of what it produces. You see, it produces a whole movement and it tries to stop a little bit of it. It is incapable of getting to its own root and stopping it all.
And they've said, that's why they've said, control it.
Yeah, but then you see that has no meaning, you see, because
quite right.
Now then there's the question of time, you see, that in other words, you see, we see that chronological time has been invented by thought, and it's useful and correct, and it gives us insight into matter. And then it has been extended to psychological time.
That's right. And psychologically evolved
to become better. You see.
Now, yes.
That again, you see, thought in the beginning did not, when it invented time, it did not know that time was limited. You see, it sort of spread it, it sort of used it chronologically and began to just use it psychologically as well because it didn't know any reason not to. And now, the point is that...
so may I just ask something? Probably totally irrelevant. In that emptiness, there's no time.
No,
that's all.
There's no time there, but you see, time appears when the center is produced, and with the memory of the past and the expectation of the future, and the attempt to make the future better, and so on. And now, there is the belief, due to our whole tradition and background and experience, that this time is a serious reality. It's a solid, genuine reality. You see, in other words, it appears to be so in matter, and therefore extended, it appears to be so psychologically.
Yeah, for a plant to become a tree, time.
Yes, so it seems that psychologically we must also exist in time, you see. Now, and the point is, though, that if we can communicate this too, that there is no fact of psychological time. You see that it's entirely imagination.
Imagination is the work of thought.
The work of thought, that a person imagines this whole stretch of time, and this imagination produces real results in the brain, which it takes as proof that the thing is there, you see. The thing has no ground beyond thought. You see, its only reality is thought, is the memory, right? It's the imprint in memory. Now, but the thing is, that this time is not actually observed.
Yes.
It is only imagined, and we imagine that we observe it, do you see? See, that's what I was trying to say. There's an imaginer who imagines that he observes time.
The observer imagines...
that he observes time, you see. That is, if he didn't imagine that he observed time, then you would see it was only thought. You see, it's the imagination that we're observing where some of the confusion arises, do you see? Right? You see that... see, if thought is going on, when you realize it's thought, then you evaluate it, and see whether it has its place or not. there's no problem. But see, if you think that it's perception, then you take it as truth, you see. And the same thing happens in experience, that you get an experience of time. You experience the reality of psychological time.
Quite.
Because the sensations which are supposed to be connected with time are there, but they're imagined to be real and independent of thought, do you see?
Yes.
You see, so you apparently are looking at time, experiencing the reality of time, and apparently have knowledge of the correctness of time and so on, do you see? Now, but see, then you see that none of this is a fact.
None of this is a fact, that's right. There is no tomorrow.
Psychologically, there's no next moment.
Next moment, that's right.
And there's no past, you see, psychologically. It's all memory, you see. It's all, what is present now is a memory and an expectation in thought.
Yes, and all reaction to that is mechanical.
Yes. The memory itself is mechanical because it's on the brain cells, right? And the difficulty is that memory is given the importance of something transcendent, I mean, you see, of your very existence, so that the reaction is enormous. I mean, do you see what I mean?
Yes. You see, all that in the world of reality, if there is no relationship between this and truth, to abandon this can only take place through suffering. Is that it?
Well, that may be, a way. I can't say what is only possible. You see, I say that in staying with suffering,
yes, that's what you say.
This whole process creates suffering.
Yeah, this whole process creates suffering.
And must do so. And now if you escape suffering, you're not actually perceiving the process. So you see, you have to stay with suffering because suffering...
You have to stay with reality.
With reality, yes.
That's it.
And reality is very unpleasant when you stay with it.
You have to stay with reality. You have to stay with the limitation of thought and not move from that.
Yes, but suppose you find that you are nevertheless moving, you see.
And of course.
Then what?
Then you are, still is the thought moving.
Yes.
So you see, that's why the perception of all that is truth.
Yes.
But people can't perceive that. Therefore you have to talk. If you tell that word is not the thing, and so they say, what the...
Well, I think that there's this understanding on a certain level, but see, the trouble is something like this, that, see, many people are ready to listen and understand up to a point. Now, the difficulty is that the whole of thought, it produces a movement beyond what thought can be conscious of, and therefore this understanding is applied to some partial consequence of thought. So you try to stop that partial consequence while the whole thing is untouched, you see. In other words, see, what the typical experience people have in listening to you is to say, yes, it's very good, very clear, but I can't, it doesn't quite work,
Yes, quite.
You see, I think that there are quite a few people who want up to a point to go into it. Yes, but now, then the question is, you see, if you find that you are only going up to a point,
that isn't good enough.
It's not good enough, but the reason is probably that one is escaping suffering, you see. One is, in other words, if you went a bit further, it might come to the suffering. Yeah.
You see, thought is so extraordinarily subtle that it thinks it is still,
Yes.
it thinks it is knows its limitation, but is always putting out a tentacle,
Yes.
waiting.
Yes, it's ready to transcend its limits.
See, that's...
Well, I wonder if there's not, if you couldn't look at desire, you see that there's a desire in thought to do all this, right?
Yes, of course. Desire being a sensation and thought.
Yes, a sensation and thought, along with the instructions, to carry out what is it there to achieve. You see, if you get a pleasant sensation, then the thought says that's pleasant, and then a set of instructions to try to get hold of it. Or if it says unpleasant, then get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
Now, but of course, desire has this sense of longing and craving and yearning and so on, something very powerful. Which overrides, all the understanding that.
The other day now at the talk, a man came up to me and said, if I have no desire, I can't have sex.
Yes.
I said, you follow how
Right.
what is related? Desire is sensation, thought, and sex.
Yes. Well, it's sensation, thought, and achieving the satisfaction of the desire.
Of course.
Now, well, that comes.
So, is it possible? Please, I'm putting the most absurd question. Not to have desire at all.
Well, that's what I was sort of coming to say. What is desire, and why? Do we have to have it?
That's what I'm getting at.
You see, I was trying to find out what is it that desire? What is the real object of desire? Because it's often very hard. It changes.
But it is desire, sensation, thought is still within that.
Yes, it's a
field of reality.
Yes, and you see, it seems to me that what desire is trying to achieve is basically a better state of consciousness. Do you see it? Right? More orderly.
More orderly and so on. Yes.
Yes, and that is an inherent meaningless.
Here.
What?
In the field of reality.
In the field of reality, and that is, it is moving. It is doing something meaningless. That is, it is trying to do something which is outside, where thought has no place. Do you see? Thought thinks that it can improve the state of consciousness by some activity, right? That goes back to ancient times when thought didn't know its limits.
Yes.
So one of the things thought thinks it can do is to make an improved state of consciousness. Do you see?
Right.
You see, because possibly there's a feeling consciousness is the essence of our existence or something. You see, in other words, we may be taking reality as the essence of our existence, as our consciousness. And then thought is trying to naturally to improve it, you see.
Right, naturally.
And then it experiences desire, and an intense sensation and a wish, a longing to carry out that improvement, which it can never do.
Right.
Because, yes.
Consciousness is in the field of reality.
Yes, that's the point we're trying to say. But usually our tradition is that it's not, do you see?
Quite. And truth is not consciousness.
No, truth is not consciousness, and consciousness is not the essence of our existence, you see, of our being, right? But if anything is, truth is, right?
Yes, yeah. Therefore, would you say that the self is the essence of consciousness?
Well, that's a question. You see, certainly the consciousness as it is now.
As it is, I'm taking it as it is now, not as it's something glorious or anything, as it is now.
The very word self, I looked up one of its meanings, is quintessence. The thing itself, the quintessence, the essence of all essences.
Yes, quite. It's the essence of consciousness.
Yes.
And truth is the essence of non-consciousness.
Well, the essence of that which is, do you see?
Which is, yes.
But, why would you say non-consciousness?
if self is the essence of consciousness,
Yes.
as we know it.
Yes, as we know it. But we discussed one of the other times another kind of consciousness that might not be conditioned, right?
Yes, but is that consciousness, can that ever be conscious of itself?
Oh, the other kind.
Yes.
Oh. I see.
If it is, it cannot come to truth.
Yes, I see. Why is that? Because in being conscious of itself, it, well, first of all, it must be dividing itself.
Quite. You got it. So, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Now, we say that and there's a kind of consciousness which is unconditioned. Would you sometimes even say a kind of thinking that's unconditioned? I don't know. You see, in some of your writings, you even implied that was another kind of thought. Something like thought, I mean.
Like thought, perhaps.
Like thought. I mean, I don't...
But it's not thought.
It's not thought, but could you call it...
Let's keep to this for a minute.
Yeah.
The self is the essence of... The word itself is the essence of consciousness. Consciousness is in the field of reality.
Yes, it's an activity of the brain, you see.
And it's an activity of the brain which has been conditioned.
Yes.
With memory and all the rest of it. And we say that consciousness can never come upon truth.
No, well, first of all, no real structure can ever give truth. I mean,
yeah, of course. This structure, all right, quite. So, this is nothingness.
Nothingness is truth, yes.
Is truth, not a thing.
Yes.
And in that nothingness, which is emptiness, space, there is tremendous energy. It is not identified with any consciousness.
No, not even this other consciousness. You see, we discussed the kind of unconditioned consciousness. Now, I was wondering if, just to make things clear, we have a language. We could say that first of all we have thought, which is conditioned operation of the brain. It is only a very small part of the operation of the brain.
Yes.
Then we have the whole operation of the brain, which includes attention and awareness. Now, would you say this other consciousness is there?
Would you call it consciousness?
Well, you did at one stage.
I know. That's what I want to get.
Well, I don't know. Yes, you see. Well, I don't quite get. You see. I see this much, that there is thought, which is only a small part of the operation of the brain, but when it goes out of its sphere, it tends to treat itself as everything.
So when you said the other day at lunch, in space there's tremendous energy. That energy is not conscious of itself.
No. See, it doesn't know itself.
That's what.
No, but that energy perceives.
That energy perceives.
Yes. Now...
It is not the perception of the self.
Well, yes. Now let's get that clear. You see, because as I see it, an energy may perceive, and this energy that perception is action, and this perception can take its own action into account. You see what I mean? It does not get confused by that.
Yes.
But it does not do that by seeing itself acting.
No, it's not self-conscious.
It is not self-conscious, but it is conscious. It is not conscious, but it is perceptive of action, right? Including its own action, right?
Yes. I don't want to use the word consciousness here.
No. The self-consciousness, you see, as I see it, it involves the notion that consciousness has an essence, do you see?
Yes.
Right, now that may be a false notion.
Yes.
See, in other words, when consciousness discovers that it's rather changeable, you see, the whole of thought works, seeing things change, it says they're only appearances, there must be some essence beneath it. You see, that's a very basic form of thought, isn't it?
Yes. Quite.
So when we see how changeable consciousness is, it's only natural for thought to think there must be an essence, which produces this consciousness, which is permanent, But then that may be entirely false. You see that in other words, this essence would be called the self, right? Now, what you have said is that consciousness is nothing but its content, and therefore it is not some movement taking place in an essence. Do you see? An appearance of an essence is not the appearance of an essence, right? And therefore, there is nothing but memory acting.
Yes.
Right? With no essence behind it. You see,
No.
which makes it rather a trivial thing.
So what is the nature of this energy, which is nothingness, which is emptiness? What is its... Has it any consciousness as we know it?
Well, let's try to put it that there may be, let's say, consciousness as we know it may begin by being conscious of a certain content, like the book and the microphone and so on, and later it begins to think about itself and begins to think of its own essence. Now, see, if consciousness did not think of its own essence, or did not attempt to think of its own essence, then wouldn't it be another kind of consciousness?
You put it that way, yes.
What?
I don't like to use the word consciousness
Yes.
because it implies self-consciousness generally.
Yes, it generally does, and but we could say consciousness is its content, right?
If there is no content,
Then there's no consciousness.
there is no consciousness as we know
As
it.
we know it, but then why do you put in the phrase "as we know it"? Do you see, that's what's puzzling.
All right, well, all right, I'll remove that phrase.
Because when you put that phrase in, it implies that there was another kind.
I'm sorry. All right, when there is no, when the content is not, there is no consciousness.
Yes. I mean, that is very clear. You see that, and any content which of something beyond consciousness is still consciousness. And you see how when we think of something beyond consciousness, that is still
It's content, yes.
And you see, when we think of the microphone, that content can bring us into contact with an actuality of the microphone. But when we think of the essence of consciousness, there is no actuality.
Yes.
There is nothing but content.
Yes, there's nothing but content, right. You empty that content.
Yes. So now it's becoming clear why you have to empty the content, you see, because when you first put it, empty the content, it sounds crazy, you see, because you say, I must have the content to get on with life, you see. Now, we'll say there's the practical content of consciousness, the scientific content, the technical content, and
that's
so on.
also.
Now, then we say, beside that, there's the content of the self, the very essence, which includes psychological time, because we think the essence exists in psychological time, right?
Yes.
Now then, therefore,
We abolish
the essence, do you see? We say that content, consciousness may have a content, but it has no essence.
Essence, quite.
It is nothing but appearance, do you see? It is nothing but moving memories. I mean, with instructions to act and so on, you see.
There is nothingness.
Yes.
In that nothingness, I'm just asking, I'm not saying, in that nothingness, everything is contained.
Yes, now we should go into that a little. You see that? In what sense is it contained?
Is reality contained in that?
Well, that's the question, you see.
That's it.
You see, and let's try to put it that in some way thought it may be, you're saying it may be, because you're saying...
No,
that's not... Well, let's try to put it. You say truth acts in matter, right?
Yes.
So matter is contained in it.
That's right.
Right. Now then, we also have reality.
Wait, that's right. That's
What?
right. Keep to that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Matter is contained in it.
In it.
And thought is nothing but a form.
Of matter.
A form of matter.
Right.
It's an empty form of matter, you see.
It's matter.
It's a very, very unsubstantial form of matter.
Yes, yes.
And which may be useful in a certain domain, you see. Now,
You see, in this,
yes.
there is no division.
Yes, all right, this becomes very clear, and also it would tie up possibly with scientific ideas even. You see, we say in truth and emptiness is energy. It is energy. And in this is contained all matter. But of course, this energy may well go infinitely beyond matter as we know it.
Yes.
And so on. Now then, in matter is the brain as well. And in the brain is a form, a very insubstantial form called thought.
Thought.
Which is also matter.
Yes, that's
and
right.
that is the truth. Right?
Yes. So in nothingness everything is.
Yes.
Oh, but it's a difficult statement.
Yes. But I think we can understand that, and we say thought then operates as material in that brain, right?
Thought thinks it's independent.
Yes. Now let's come to the self-deception is that
Yes.
the illusion is that thought thinks it exists independently of matter. But when thought began, it did not know its relation to matter. That was one of its weak points. So it could easily begin to think it was independent, or very nearly so, or something. And eventually it could think it was the very essence of everything. You see, I think perhaps a young child, when he first begins to think, an infant, he may think that he creates everything by thinking. You see, that because all the forms of everything appear in consciousness through thought, you see.
Right.
Now, then later he learns that he doesn't create everything. But he doesn't really learn it properly, you see. He sort of denies that idea in some part, but he does not ever get to deny the whole of it.
Yeah,
You see,
you see, I've been told by the Indian pundits, Indian scholars, that they have said this.
You said what?
When there is nothingness, everything is in that.
Yes.
Which is, in God, put
Yes.
it in the vulgar terms, in God everything is.
Yes.
See, that statement in itself is wrong.
Yes, well, let's try to see exactly what's wrong with it. You see, that I think that the trouble with that statement is that it's thought transcending its limit. You see, that it's a form of consciousness. In other words, what we do is we make a picture. This is one of the problems which philosophy tends to get into, which is to try to make an explanation of everything.
Of course.
Which is still only thought, you see, and therefore see, once you take that as an explanation, then the thing is wrong, do you see? I mean, because then you're saying everything, the essence is just this which I'm thinking about.
Quite. What time is it?
Yes, I must be getting late. I'm 5:20. Well, perhaps we should finish at this stage. And
at this stage.
Yes, there's one more. And
we'll conclude.
Yes, I don't know if it would be worthwhile to try to make a summary during this last one.
Yes, and we'll not summary only. We'll proceed. We'll go on.
Yeah. But I meant to sort of not just go over the basic ideas and then go on, right?
See, when one says in nothing everything is, that's a wrong statement even.
Yeah. So how would you put it then?
You don't put it.
Yes. Well, it's the same as with the judgment. You see, the judgment divides what is actually undivided. You see, the perception is undivided, but the judgment expresses it as divided, you see. See, the judgment always puts a division.
Of course. You see, the man listening to that, in nothingness everything is, says, in me is God, I am God.
Well, that's because he is thinking that that's it, you see.
And he's lost it. I think in the Judaic religion, just don't name.
Yes, but that didn't help either.
No, of course not. Imagination went rampant.
See, I think that there is a point here that to see the limits of philosophy. See, every thought is limited, and even that thought is limited, you see. And therefore, if we take that thought as anything more than a description, as an indication of something, then...
Okay. And that's why it's very important to see that thought cannot transcend itself.
Yes.
That is the basic thing.
But you see, thought has this tremendous impetus to transcend itself.
Of course. That's the root of it.
And thought is trying to reach
heaven, quite. Well, better stop, otherwise we'll go on sitting here forever.